My guest this week is Markus Rentsch, and Markus is one of the top leaders in a customer-centric world. So working with the SaaS companies as a CEO of Remark-able company, Markus started a business model that actually changed the customer success culture, if I may say so. So in a couple minutes, we will talk about that model. And Markus, welcome. I'm really excited to talk with you on customer-related topics, to have a better understanding on your business actually, and to learn from your experience. Thank you for being here with me today.
Okay, thanks for having me, Isidora. I'm glad to be here and talk with you about customer-centric business.
I will try not to get into discussion because it's an area where you are great and in which you achieve great results. So I will focus on questions, asking questions and listening to great story, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Firstly, I really like the way you present the importance of customer satisfaction, the way you talk and write about customer success programs and the customer success life cycle as well. So I believe you had a lot of challenges and lessons along the way, from opening the company to developing a business model. Therefore, my first question is regarding how you came to customer value lead growth model. What inspired you to create that model?
So the business model is basically the result of all the insights and experiences I've made over the past almost 5 years. So in the beginning, I offered a different scope of services. So I focused on positioning and strategy, so overall business strategy. But then I quickly realized, okay, what matters is the customer. And it's really a long road from positioning, what I consider the start of customer success, where you set the customer expectations until the final delivery. So, and it's been like, I think 1 year or 5 months ago, where I've basically created my business model. But it took me over a year to really turn it into a book, because it's been really difficult for me to make it most effective and efficient. So I personally, I'm not really a business book reader, because I think most books are really written to write a book. So there is the content, the 200 pages, for example, you could summarize it to 20 pages and then you could really work with it. So that's been my intention when I created the book. So I really tried to cut off everything I thought that was not necessary. So it's been quite the balance act between putting the information that's absolutely necessary and make it as easy to apply and implement these things. The idea behind the business model is the observation I've made working in the SaaS industry is that most SaaS companies follow what I consider an outdated game. So they try to grow by maximizing the number of customers, but that's not how SaaS works. I mean, if you acquire as many customers as possible, but these customers don't stay because they don't find value. You've just wasted money on acquiring these customers. So instead, my business model is focused on maximizing the customer value and grow as a result of delivering these outcomes to the customers. So there are a lot of studies that explicitly show how much better this business model works, because it's so much more effective and efficient to grow from expansions and upsells. And also, of course, customer success also impacts new customer acquisition.
Yeah, of course.
Why? Because successful customers spread the word, or even give you actual referrals. So they know people in other companies and talk to them and say, hey, we have a great solution for our problem. And I know you have the very same. You need to try that.
Yeah,
you need to
they're
go there
like
and
brand
try to use
ambassadors.
And that's really important. So, and the second core of the idea behind this, that customer success is not the responsibility of a single customer success team, but everybody contributes to it. So if you work in B2B, your only mission is to help your customers to become more successful. So that automatically makes everybody who works for the company part of customer success. So if you work in product, you create the success architecture. You don't just build features and functions, but you create the real solution. If you're in marketing, you try to find the people who will see the most benefits of the product. In sales, ideally you close only deals where you know, okay, these customers have sufficient success potential. The solution really fits their needs and they have the knowledge, capabilities to become successful, or they can acquire them from us. But I see so many companies really trying to sell to each and everybody independently of if they're a good fit or not.
Yeah.
And that's the way how you create high churn.
Actually,
so churn is not created after the purchase, but long before. So to me, there are four major steps in the customer success journey that have to be completed to enable customer success. The first part is you need to have customers who come with the right expectations. So it's your mission to set the right expectations, to tell customers, okay, if you come to us, that's what you will get.
Yeah, the most company thinks that problem with the churn is product price or something about that service price.
The price is never the problem because the customer knows the price before. So you never have a pricing problem, but you always have a value problem. So what the customer is really saying when they say, okay, it's too expensive, they say it's too expensive for the value we get.
Yeah.
But of course, the solution is not to reduce the price, but to increase the value. Because you can't always reduce the price if someone says, okay, we pay too much for what we get.
Yeah, in the end of the day, the value that you produce to your customer is something that's doing your business growth, actually.
Exactly. You don't sell features and functions. Customers, they really don't care. For your customers, it's a tool. It's a tool to transform the business from where they are now to where they want to go. And that's the important part. So all business functions really need to focus on customer value. So if you've set the expectations right for your customers, the next step is to really qualify these customers. So as I said before, they need to have the right fit. They need to have at least some basic capabilities.
Yeah.
And what I've discovered is highly important is they need to have the right mindset and the right culture. So even if they have a ton of resources and a ton of knowledge, if they're not willing to follow CMM's advice, if they're not willing to put in the work that's required, they will fail. That's also important. And only then you should acquire these customers. In the next step, you focus on the onboarding. But what most companies think about onboarding this way, it's like to introduce your product, to show the customer around and then introduce them to each and every function. But the true purpose of your onboarding is to give your customers quick wins. So customers see, okay, we are only using the product for a month and we already got an important problem solved. And that's when they are really hooked in and really buying into and commit to your solution. That's really, really important as well.
Yeah, they want
onboarding
the solution,
the part where many customers drop out because the companies don't provide a customer's onboarding and the outcome
It's
focused.
really important process for sales team as a customer success team also. It's truly fascinating how much work, passion and effort can contribute to professional development exactly. And when we talk about some parts of your business model, can you share more about life cycle of a user from entering the system to the satisfied customer? How would you describe that journey of customer?
So to me, the starting point for the journey is not the sale, as I've said, but it's basically the first exposure of a customer to your company. So because that's where you set certain expectations. So if you go to the website of a company or you read a blog post, you immediately think about something. You immediately have certain expectations about the company.
Yeah.
So and of course, it's really very important that what you promise in the beginning, you need to deliver in the end.
Yeah, that's a first impression. Yeah, there isn't another time for first impression actually.
So there are really many small steps, but as I've said, there are basically 4 parts of the customer life cycle. It's customer expectations, customer product fit, onboarding, and customer success, you could say. So the final part is really where the customer success long-term program starts.
Yeah, I strongly agree with you. And according to the life cycle part, what do you think, in addition to proactivity, effectiveness, and empathy, is needed to turn customer success into growth? From your perspective.
So what's also very important to me is I'm really not happy with how customer success teams operate these days, because the approach is it's heavily flawed in my opinion. Why? Because it relies on measuring customer progress, customer success with metrics that don't come from the customer. So you measure user activity and feature adoption, but the problem is none of these say anything about whether the customer is successful. So, okay, you see a user that is highly active every day, but what you don't know is that this customer maybe doesn't get any results. So the customer is just trying and trying and trying, but there are no outcomes for the customer. But on your metrics, on your health scores or whatever you use, the customer with this high activity and feature adoption would most likely appear in perfect health. Everything green, and you will never find out what's really going on. And then the customer will suddenly churn. So it's quite amazing how many companies are actually taken by surprise when customers churn. But the thing is
they didn't expect it in the end of the day.
They don't know. They have no information about the customer's outcomes. So I've tried that. I'm really, when I'm talking to companies, very important question to ask them is, do you know whether your customers are successful? And 9 out of 10, they don't know. They just assume customers are successful because of these metrics and because they haven't churned yet. But that's not really how you track customer success. Customer success, when you say, okay, the customer buys a sales tool and the customer goal is to increase sales, to reduce sales cycles and to close higher deals, more valuable deals. So then, of course, you as a customer success manager or as a company even, you need to measure that. So did the customer achieve the goals, or did the customer not achieve the goals? So you can't always prevent churn, but you need to always know. So if a customer is successful, the customer will stay. If a customer is not successful, the customer will churn sooner or later. There are just these two outcomes. But we need to know. And if we measure the right metrics that we may even have defined with the customer together before, if they haven't been obvious, then we can also predict churn.
And that's also retention.
Very important for planning and forecasting, of course.
That actually led me to my next question about customer metric. When you talk about customer-oriented world, I actually understand how important it is to collect users' feedback, to hear and value their opinion. But how do you measure your customer satisfaction in your company or a role, for example?
So I'm absolutely convinced that customer success is related to growth. So for me, a real customer success metric system needs 3 components. So the first one is actually measuring your customers' outcomes. And the second one is to see how that correlates to what I like to call customer revenue actions. So to see, okay, how much value does a customer need to renew, expand, or upsell or refer. So you don't deliver customer success services just for the sake of it. Of course, you want to generate revenue. Although most companies are focused on renewals, but I think customer success is a growth function. So that takes the customer above what they've paid initially. But of course, in order to earn it, you have to deliver. That's obvious. So the third part is the delivery performance. So how long does it take you to make customers successful? How accurate are you by doing it? Do your customers achieve their goals in like 20% of cases or 90% of cases? And of course, what's also related to this is the cost of the service delivery, because you want to create a return on investment. It obviously doesn't make sense to deliver a lot of services without any revenue impact. That's also an important trap for some companies. They think of customers who are key accounts. So they may pay $10,000 a month, but they need so much service that their actual costs exceed what they're paying. But most companies really don't know how much costs they actually create. And they don't know whether customers are profitable. But these are the things you need to measure.
There is where metrics help actually. And do you think that customer feedback is a guidepost in delivering value? How would you explain the importance of customer feedback for service improvement, for example, for service improvement?
The thing is, we need to really start speaking a different language in companies, and that's customer value. So that needs to become a company-wide mindset. It's also very important that all teams really work together as one team. So that's a big problem I see in many companies is that all teams have different goals and even contradicting goals. So in customer success, a big problem is when you get bad fit customers. So you get these customers and okay, they are a bad fit, but your mission is to increase the retention rate.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you get these bad fit customers? Because the sales team has a quota and they need to achieve it. And most quotas are really ridiculously high. So of course, they will also knowingly close the deals where they know, okay, they are not good for us, but we have to achieve our goals. So that's really something that runs through the whole company. It includes marketing, product, really all business functions. So it's all these quantity-based metrics that cause a lot of, you could really say, the evil. So, but you need to work on quality. I mean, what's the point of creating 10K leads per month when they converted at 0.1 conversion rate? So that's really ridiculous. What's the point of it? You just create a lot of useless stuff. So, but you could instead focus on creating less leads, but more demand. So you target ICP customers and you create content for ICP customers and not the generic content we see. So if you go to a typical blog post, you just see there's really such low quality content.
Yeah, I think you give value every day through your posts on LinkedIn.
There's really stuff like 6 tips to sell more or something like this, but there are probably 1 million blog posts about the same, but none of it has really any quality. So it's just, they're just very common advice like do customer research or stuff like this, or listen to the customer. But that's nice, but what do I do with that kind of information? How do I translate it to my business?
They have to act on that information actually. But what would be your advice for companies that don't collect user feedback?
So I think companies need to rethink their own business model. So it's really, really important. So you don't build your business around the product. You build it around the customer. Because if you have no customer and no retention, you have no business. So that's what so many companies fail to understand, in my opinion. And of course, I also think that today many founders think of SaaS companies as a way to get rich quickly and all the glory and fame. But it doesn't work like this. I mean, I don't know what the true failure rate of SaaS companies is today, but as there's so much competition, there are no more easy ways.
Yeah, it's not success in a long way, actually, though.
Exactly. Yeah. You need to play the long-term game. The long-term game is to focus on growing customers. Of course, first it's to keep customers and then to grow customers. So I've recently checked out a paper that did some research where it said, okay, the companies who make $100 million ARR and more, they already create 50% of the new revenue from existing customers.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, Salesforce generated 73% from existing customers last year. So only 27% of the new revenue came from new customers. And you need to understand, okay, the revenue you acquire from existing customers, you have to spend so much less. Why? Because it's simple. These customers already know the value of a product.
Yeah, you actually have to interview your customers, to listen, to measure a pulse of your customer at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Building customer relationships is also a very important part of the business model. Because in order to serve your customers in the best way possible, you need to understand customers and you need to get access to a lot of information. But the thing is, customers will give you this information only if they trust you. So they won't give you the in-depth information if you only send them generic email sequences, of course. But if you talk to them, if you show genuine interest and ask them open questions and let them talk, you will, what I call, become their business therapist. So they feel heard maybe for the first time ever.
That's the way you're building a close bonds with your customer, with your users, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more you pour in, the more they will value this relationship. So this is when you then also grow into the now famous trusted advisor role.
But how to encourage customer to have actually to feel that they can share with you what's happening in their company, what they want to achieve? How you inspire them to be open to talk about that?
So my idea is that you do it right from the beginning. So ideally, before you onboard customers, start with a kickoff meeting with the customer, where you discuss all these things. You ask questions about the business. So real questions, so not survey questions, but really open questions. So what keeps you from achieving your goal?
Yeah,
for
so they
example?
can discuss about that, yeah. To give their
Exactly.
opinion on that.
What's most painful for you? Or what are your personal obstacles you need to resolve, of course? Because that's also very important. We need to focus in the end, okay, customers get outcomes that are any kind of numbers. So they are either increased revenue, reduced costs, or improved productivity.
Yeah.
But what customers really care about is what these numbers mean to them. What's behind, so the human outcomes. So things like being free of pain, or even getting promoted, or getting listed in, the Forbes 30 under 30 list, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's what we need to focus. We need to focus in the end on the human outcomes, the human value.
That's actually
important.
a way that you get to know if your product or service is a fit for your customer, actually, when you interview your customer. Yeah.
Of course, that's in the beginning of the whole customer life cycle. You need to discover whether what the customer wants and what we can deliver matches.
Yeah.
So it also happens quite often that the product or service is oversold during the sales process. And then customers are handed over to CS teams, and the CS teams have to say, sorry, we can't deliver what you want. It's not possible. And that's really awful. I mean, not only will the customer churn and you've spent money on the acquisition of this customer that is wasted, but you will also get a bad reputation.
Yeah.
Because the customer will feel tricked.
I understand, yeah. I agree with you. Actually, customer success needs to become a company-wide mindset, as you said previously. But from that experience, from that perspective, how much a company culture can influence the measurement of customer satisfaction?
So in the end, it's all about company culture.
Yeah.
And it also became very obvious to me that the change needs to come from the top. So if it's not supported by the company's CEO, it's determined to fail. Because only if the CEO drives it, and of course if the CEO needs to buy in him or herself, it's also very important, because why would someone else follow if the top leader doesn't believe in it, him or herself?
Yeah.
So that's very important, but it's of course it's not easy to change your tune.
Yeah, it takes time and effort to change that. Yeah. But the correlation between teams and departments, we talk about that later on, within a company is sometimes crucial to delivering value to the customer. So having that in mind, for example, how do you explain correlation between sales team, product team, service team in delivering that value? For example, in a service world.
So another very important thing is that customer information needs to flow freely within the company. And that's also very important, and also unfortunately very underrated part of customer success is that customer success really owns the customer intelligence. They work with customers daily. They understand their problems, their solutions, the obstacles they run into, their product needs, everything. But this information needs to be collected and distributed within the company.
Yeah.
So usually in product development, new features are developed based on own ideas or from feature requests. But if you don't know who made the feature requests and why, you don't understand whether you really need them and whether they add value. And of course also who made those feature requests. So it's quite a difference if you're one of your top customers requested a new feature, or a customer who complains night and day, and a customer who will churn anyways.
Yeah.
Even if you build all the 10 features the customer wants. So you need to determine it. And And also you need to inject the information within marketing and sales. So we are not allowed to forget that in marketing, we work with assumptions about the ICPs we use, the customer problems, and the customer outcomes. But in customer success, you really get the validation. So basically, the daily experience of customer success managers is the fuel for all the other teams in the company.
Yeah, that's the way to get to know customers well. Yeah, customer success is actually the way to know a customer better.
So ideally, you have a CEO who is behind this customer centricity, and also you can really make all the people see within the company the advantages of really working together. So also in sales, if they don't know what kind of customers are prone to churn, they won't be able to improve and they will continue to acquire churn. But if they get information about, okay, we have identified these red flags and pass it on to the sales team, okay, and they can ask questions and see, okay, that customer owns that red flag. We should not acquire that customer. Then also you will improve your sales productivity because you will spend more time with better prospects and less with bad leads, or as I've said, with customers who are really prone to churn.
Yeah, I think it's easier.
You can improve everything.
Yeah, I think it's easier with the startup companies where is a low number of employees because they work together. Actually, they are connected better to exchange information or insights about customer needs and yeah.
That would be true, but unfortunately, so many startups are really blinded by what I call instant gratification. So there's so much noise and the perception that all you need is to raise a lot of money and hire more marketers and salespeople. And that's really a big problem. So that you have companies, I've read it somewhere or read it somewhere, I don't exactly remember, where the question was, do you invest in customer success? And the company said no, because we're focusing on growth. So they really don't understand customer success. They don't have any basic understanding of it. Or yesterday, someone shared with me on LinkedIn a job ad where about the customer success manager. But in the job description, they specifically wrote, okay, you are supporting our customers. But customer success and customer support is not the same thing.
Yeah.
So they fail to understand what's the difference between. So I think there is really, really a long road to go and even to make companies understand what the customer success function itself is, and even a longer road until companies will realize, okay, customer success needs to become a company-wide operating system and mindset.
Actually, company success produce a company growth, actually.
Yes, customer success is company success. It's really that easy.
It's the same.
And it's of course, it's more true for SaaS companies than other companies. Why? Because what you're basically doing with the retention and the subscription business model is you have to sell your product every single month again. If a customer pays monthly, of course.
You also
why would customers continuously buy your product? Because it makes them successful. If it does not make them successful, they will churn.
Yeah.
It's really that easy.
There's easy to understand.
Nothing in between.
Yeah, I understand. So we all have some challenging days at work. And so what about those not so cool days, to say, at your job? What difficulties did you encounter in the most challenging case you had?
Yes, one thing is to cope with all these changes. Another thing is to convince other teams to join in, especially if it don't have the CEO buy-in. So that's why I've discovered it. So in some companies it works. So there's really a voluntarily made connection between customer success and sales teams, because both gave it a try and discovered, okay, if we're working together, we get better results. So I'm absolutely convinced that despite you've said my content is quite popular on LinkedIn, that 95% of SaaS companies will never listen. They will continue to do the same. They will continue to do to run their company with sales-led growth. with what I like.
That's about company culture.
Approach.
Yeah, that's about company culture, I think. Also.
But I want to reach the remaining 5% of companies where there are people who already think, okay, there must be a better way to grow, a more healthy way to grow, a more effective way to grow, and give them the tools to become something different and follow a different path. That's really important to me.
That's really important, yeah. I often hear some how monitoring customer satisfaction can directly affect upsell and cross-sell, as we said. From your experience, which situation is a trigger for upsell and cross-sell? Does it customer satisfaction or customer need on the other
hand? So first we need to understand what customer satisfaction is and whether it's the same as customer success. So maybe let's go a little bit of a different road. I've often read interpretations or formulas for customer experience. So for me, it's quite different. For me, customer experience is not part of customer success, but it's the exact opposite. Customer experience to me is customer success, and that's absolutely crucial, because if you have no customer success, you don't have a positive customer experience. And the second part is how easy or difficult customers have achieved that customer success. And into this second part there runs basically everything else. How easy it is to contact people at your company, how easy to get information, how easy to make a purchase decision. So really everything runs into this. So that's to me the two parts of customer experience.
Yeah, I understand. That's actually Net Promoter Score that measure customer loyalties, customer effort score that measure how effort customer have to bring to that process.
And
you have to walk in a customer's shoes to understand customer actually.
Exactly. That's the biggest problem I see in CS teams today. So they are assuming and guessing, and they use metrics. They think that they're great because everybody uses it, but they have little knowledge. And as I've said before, 9 out of 10 companies I've asked, they really don't know whether the customers are successful. They are just assuming it.
Do you think it's about knowledge or about consciousness about that things, that customer success? What actually mean customer success?
I think it's bad practices being cultivated and spread. So today everybody uses something, but they don't think about whether these things are great or they are not. Yeah. So usually all CS tools out in the world, they feature that Net Promoter Scores and health scores and all that stuff. But really no one asks the question, is this the best way?
Yeah.
Are these the right metrics? And in my opinion, it's no. If your metrics don't include inputs that really come from the customer, that are based on customer intelligence, these metrics are useless. If you calculate a health score, you need to find out, okay, what's important for the customer, and if we don't deliver these things, whether these are results or responding to the customer within 1 hour or something, we can't accurately measure it. Why are you measuring all kinds of stuff, but not the things customers came for? Yeah. So that's what I don't understand, but maybe it's just because I actually have never worked in customer success. So, I mean, of course, now I'm working in customer success, and in the past I've worked in companies, and I've always had that point of view that I'm also serving internal customers, but I haven't gone down the classic road.
But I think that you had a great knowledge and experience when we talk about customer success team, how they act, how do they actually understand their customers.
So maybe you can keep a secret, but all the things I'm talking about are just what's most logical to me. I don't even feel that I have that much of in-depth knowledge about customer success. But to me, these things are all logical. So that really, the business model I came up with is built on logic and the experiences I've made.
They actually lay one on another, and that's about mindset that you have actually. Exactly. I really believe that the customer success department can be of great help in a sales team for sales colleagues when it comes to defining the ideal user profile actually. So in the end, one question from my side of the business development position. How would you explain customer success role in detecting bad fit customer?
What's also very important is we need to work with the right data. So we need to define if we already have a customer base, we need to segment it. And we need to segment it the right way. Most companies segment customers by their size, how much they pay, their location, etc., etc. But the more effective way is to segment customers by their outcomes and their profitability. And ideally, your most successful customers should also be your most profitable ones.
Yeah.
Because it's directly connected. The more successful they become, the more they buy, the more profitable they are. And from there, we will reverse engineer the segments. So we see, okay, what have the customers who are most successful and profitable, what do they have in common? And then we work out or we validate the ICP profiles. So one idea of mine is that it would be a great idea for companies to start working together if different departments would work on actually create that ICP.
Yeah.
So that all teams really understand, okay, that's our ICP and that's the profiles we work for. That's the product. For these people, we create the product for. These are the people we want to market for. These are the people we want to sell to. These are the people we want to have in customer success and grow. And at the same time, we also look into, okay, what have customers that churned in the past have in common?
Yeah.
So we can actually watch out for these red flags. And if that information is available to everybody in the company, you have alignment and everybody knows actually who the ideal customer is. But what happens in most companies is everybody sits in a different silo and sits on the information. Doesn't really share it.
That's a lack of information, actually, yeah.
Exactly, but that's a horrible thing to me. Because it creates so much actual cost and it creates so many wasted opportunities. It's really, really bad.
So from that point...
For me, ideally, there is a big, huge customer database where everybody gets access to. Everybody can understand, okay, who is the customer? What did they do? Why are they here? Why did they send a ticket? Why did they send a feature request? Everything. So everybody really has the same base of knowledge. And then when they have the same base of knowledge, they can really work together and improve things together and become one single customer-centric team.
Yeah. From that point of view, I understand that, for example, customer teams and success teams have to work together when it comes to onboarding customer, actually.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't matter how you have your department split up or how many teams exist, but they all work along this customer success journey. And I also like to visualize it with it's coming from a process management with the internal customer view. So the sales department buys leads from the marketing department. And if you would be a marketing agency selling leads to customers, your customers would stop buying it if the leads are bad. And you should also have the same point of view if you're working with internal customers. So as a marketer, your mission is to create great leads for the sales team that actually convert. But of course, it needs to be backed from the top. Because as I've said, if you're a marketer and your mission is to create 10K leads per month, you will do it at all costs. And you will certainly also create a ton of bad leads in order to achieve your goal. But of course, that sets up your sales team for failure. And they also have then to sign up bad leads into customers to achieve their goal. And so it's really passed through the whole company. And in the end, of course, it's the customer success team that inherits the bad fit customer, and churn is inevitable.
I agree actually that in most companies things start with the marketers, with marketing team. But is that only when we talk about inbound funnel? For example, when we talk about outbound, I think that start from sales cycle, from sales perspective first.
Yes, but either way, it starts with defining your ICP.
Yeah.
Because if you reach out with outbound to random people, your success rate will be super, super low.
And there is where success team and sales team came together to create
exactly
ICP. Yeah.
So basically, marketing and sales, the teams that work in pre-sales, they work with assumptions and expectations, of course, but they can't verify it.
Yeah,
the only verification is when someone actually becomes a customer. Only then you can see, okay, was it a bad fit? Could we deliver what the customer wanted? Of course. So if we couldn't deliver what the customer wanted, we should no longer sell that to customers.
Yeah,
we should no longer sell an outcome that we can't deliver. It absolutely makes no sense, of course.
Yeah.
But it's really all teams need to work together. To me, it's so obvious. Yeah. Only if they work together, you can really create this long-term success and really have customers who stay with you, for a lifetime.
And that's back us to company culture, actually. Everything is
it's
connected.
It's company culture.
Yeah.
All these things are derived from company culture. You can't prescribe it. I can't go to a company and say, okay, hey, that's the right way to do things, and the CEO says, okay, let's implement it. But if you don't have the right culture for it, will be a failure of epic proportions.
Yeah, at the end of the day, everything is connected. All teams with a company culture from the top, actually.
Yes. You need to have this, you need to implement the customer-centric culture first, or change a company to the tune. That's important. And only then you can implement all the other steps. So that's why I've said 95% of companies, I'm absolutely certain, they won't listen to what I say and they won't change. And I also don't want them to change because I know it will fail.
Yeah, a business plan needs to, to follow a company culture, actually. Every business model in a company have to follow company culture, actually.
And of course, a lot of, especially in SaaS, a lot of bad influence comes from all the venture capital and the way these companies operate, because they are really, they overwhelm companies with a lot of money, but with a lot of money they actually don't really need. So it's really crazy when you see investments going on about 100 and 200 million, but the thing is you can't even spend that properly.
Yeah.
I mean, how you're going to spend 100 million in a year or two? So, but if you're going to spend it over 5 years, you don't need 100 million now. So if I'm planning to invest 100 million over 5 years, I would raise less money now and more money later, of course, because I can raise it for better terms.
Yeah.
Because if I invested this 20 money, my companies become more successful, more valuable, and then I can raise more money for better terms. It really doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm really not against venture capital, because I think it's a great way to speed up things, but it's a great way to speed up things that actually work. And if a company really focuses all in on customer acquisition and converts customers at 0.1% and has a churn rate of 20%, that's not what I consider something that's working.
Yeah, that's actually key to success, actually. Yeah.
Yes.
So Markus, I hope I didn't tire you with the questions. I have the impression that I would have a bunch more, but this time we will stop here, and on another occasion we will meet again, for example, to chat and exchange some new insights, if you agree.
Yes, I mean, I could probably talk for another hour
about me too.
Things. I'm really passionate about it, because I think there's a lot of things that need to be changed, and I want to contribute to that. You could say the higher goal is, of course, to to change the way how a whole industry operates.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very, very unhealthy for everybody, for the customers and also for the companies. Because I've seen it, these companies are really putting their employees under a lot of pressure to achieve these goals. But if you really have a 0.1 conversion rate and 20% churn, you really struggle a lot, because it makes achieving your goals much, much harder.
Yeah, I think company pay attention to achieve goals, but there is a lack of consciousness about customer satisfaction, about importance of customer feedback actually at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So I want to thank you on my own behalf and on behalf of Matrix Flair. Actually, thank you for the value you have given us today, actually, for the experience you have shared, and I wish you many successful steps in your future work.
Thank you. I would also like to thank you for inviting me on the podcast. And yeah, I would love to talk again with you about
Awesome.
all things that are related to customer success.
Yeah, I noted. I remember that. And one note for you, continue to share useful content on social networks, because I'm sure there are a bunch of people like me who find them inspiring for their improvement. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, I will keep trying to share everything that's possible.
Yeah.